Welcome, everyone, to this explainer. Look, if you're a parent, you already know the exact, exhausting cycle I'm talking about here. Every single winter, it's like millions of families fall into the exact same trap. You've got the constant daycare sniffles, the coughing that keeps everyone up, the scrambled mornings trying to cover missed days of work, and then eventually someone hits you with that dreaded heavy label. Oh, your kid just has weak immunity. It feels totally defeating, doesn't it? Well, today we're going to completely rethink what is actually happening inside your child's body. We're diving into the real science behind winter illnesses, and as you're going to see, the real culprit is probably not what you think it is.
So, right here is the frustrating question every single parent has whispered at, 2 in the morning while pacing the hallway holding a feverish toddler. Why is my child always sick? Maybe your kid just started daycare or preschool and suddenly it's just this relentless parade of colds. They do 1 week at school and then boom, another week stuck at home. You start second guessing everything. What are you doing wrong? Why does it feel like they catch absolutely every single bug that goes around? Well, the answer actually lies in a part of the human body that we rarely talk about, but it's quite literally the front line of defense.
All right, let's get into part one, the fence and the army. Okay, so let's break this down. When we hear the word immunity, we usually picture something kind of abstract, right? Like we think of vitamins, special syrups, those little miracle gummies. But immunity is incredibly physical. Think of your child's body like a house. Now, your general immune system, those internal defenses, that's like the army stationed inside the house. But before that army ever even has to lift a single finger to fight, there's a physical fence built all the way around the property. And that fence is what we call local immunity. So what exactly is local immunity? Basically, it's the very first physical protective barrier. We're talking about the mucus inside the nose, the saliva in the mouth, the lining of the throat, the airways, and honestly, here is why this is so spectacular. Most viruses never actually make it past this barrier. Think about it. Your child breathes in literally millions of viruses constantly, at school, at daycare, sitting in the shopping cart at the grocery store, but most of the time, nothing happens. Why? Because healthy, moist mucus acts like a giant trap. It physically catches those viruses and uses protective substances to destroy them before your kid ever even feels a tickle in their throat. So, what goes wrong? Let's look at part two, the real winter villain. Now, prepare to have everything you've been taught flipped completely upside down. The danger isn't the freezing cold weather outside, not at all. The true villain that is actively destroying your child's physical mucus barrier is the dry, heated air inside your own home. Seriously, local immunity only works when that mucus stays moist. The absolute second it dries out, it just stops protecting the body. So every single year when heating season kicks off, we unknowingly create a disaster zone for our kids' respiratory systems right in our living rooms. Let's put some numbers to this so you can really see the impact. 30%. When your heating system kicks on, indoor humidity just plummets. In a lot of homes and classrooms during the winter, that humidity drops way below 30%. And guys, that is critically, dangerously low for human airways. When the air gets that bone dry, it acts like a sponge, just aggressively pulling moisture out of everything in the room. And yes, that includes your child's protective barrier. And this sets off a massive biological chain reaction. That 30% dry air dries out the inside of the nose. It dries out the throat. It dries out the airways. And once that protective fence of mucus dries up and cracks, well, viruses suddenly have a massive advantage. They aren't getting trapped anymore. They can just march straight into the body without any resistance. This right here is the exact reason why so many kids seem perfectly healthy in September, but the absolute second November hits and the heaters turn on, they are sick on repeat. Their immune system didn't magically break, their physical barrier just dried up. Which brings us to part three, why supplements usually fail. This perfectly illustrates the core problem with the whole supplement aisle. Parents are constantly bombarded with products promising to boost immunity. But listen, if the air in your house is completely dry and your child's mucus barrier is already damaged, giving them an expensive gummy is exactly like installing a massive, state-of-the-art security system in a house that literally has no front doors. I mean, sure, some medications might slightly stimulate their internal defenses, but if the viruses can just waltz right in through the missing front door, that expensive security system is completely useless. So we have to face this hard truth together. You just cannot fix environmental problems with a bottle from the pharmacy. I really know how incredibly frustrating it is to spend your hard-earned money, try absolutely everything the internet tells you to do, and still watch your kids spike a fever again and again. But the reason it feels like you're failing isn't because you bought the wrong brand of vitamins. It's simply because the root issue, the dry environment that's damaging their local immunity, was never actually fixed. Okay, so how do we fix it? Part 4, fixing the home environment. If we want to genuinely support a child's local immunity, we have to completely skip the miracle cures and get back to basics. Here are 5 surprisingly simple, everyday adjustments that rebuild that physical barrier from scratch. Number 1, cool sleeping air. Kids just breathe and sleep way better in a cooler room. 2, proper humidity. Grab a humidifier to fix that 30% drop. It is an absolute game changer. 3, fresh ventilation. Stale, overheated air is just terrible for lungs, so crack a window and air out the house. 4, plenty of fluids. And 5, daily movement. Kids are literally designed to run around, sweat, and breathe fresh outdoor air. Actually, let's zoom in on step 4 for a second, fluids, because the biology here is just fascinating. When a child is well hydrated, their body physically produces thinner mucus, and thinner, moist mucus is exactly what the body needs to trap those winter bugs efficiently. On the flip side, if a kid is dehydrated, they produce this thick, sticky mucus, which does a terrible job at protecting them. So literally just making sure your child is drinking enough water throughout the day is a direct physical upgrade to their local immunity fence. How cool is that? Let's move on to part 5, lifestyle over genetics. You know, parents carry so much unnecessary guilt. We say things to ourselves like, oh, I was sick a lot as a kid too, or man, our family just has terrible immunity. But the actual science tells us that true severe immune deficiencies are incredibly rare. If your kid is running, playing, growing normally, and recovering from average colds, they probably don't have a broken immune system. Like this quote says, most of the time, that whole weak immunity label is literally just dry indoor air, zero ventilation, and a really poor sleep environment masking itself as a medical issue. We've all kind of inherited this really intense generational fear, haven't we? For decades, the golden rule of parenting was whatever you do, never open the windows, guard the kids from any sign of a breeze, and keep the house absolutely piping hot all winter. A total grandma's paradise, right? But the scientific reality is wildly different. Overheating children indoors and trapping them in stale air causes way more respiratory problems than a cool breeze from an open window ever could. When it comes down to it, your day-to-day lifestyle and environment beat genetics far more often than we realize. And that brings us to the absolute core takeaway of our explainer today. The very next time someone tries to casually tell you that your child has bad immunity, just pause before you start to panic. Most children absolutely do not need stronger immunity. What they desperately need are healthier conditions for the incredible natural immunity they already have inside them. Protecting your kid's health isn't about making a frantic run to the pharmacy. It's about taking back control of your living room. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. What if the absolute most powerful medicine isn't a syrup or a chewable vitamin at the pharmacy, but the actual quality of the air you are breathing inside your own home? By just turning down that heat, turning up the humidity, and letting some fresh air in, you are literally rebuilding your child's natural defenses from the ground up. You absolutely have the power to break the winter sickness trap. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today, and hey, here is to a much healthier and much more hydrated winter season for you and your family.